Picture a dark, smoke-filled boardroom in 1919. Charlie Chaplin, the most famous human being on Earth, is sitting across from a wall of stone-faced studio moguls. He is trying to negotiate a fair share of the millions his movies just generated. Instead of respect, a studio boss looks him dead in the eye, chuckles, and dismisses him as a disposable clown whose only job is to dance for a weekly allowance. Welcome to the brutal corporate jungle of 1919 Hollywood. Forget the glamour and the red carpets. Back then, the movie business was a rigged game run by a ruthless cartel of studio bosses. Three massive companies controlled absolutely everything. They owned the film equipment, the studio lots, the actors' contracts, and most importantly, every single movie theater screen in the country. If you were an independent creator who wanted to make a movie outside their rules, you were completely blacklisted. The bosses used sketchy bookkeeping tricks to hide their millions, making sure that even the biggest blockbusters looked broke on paper. This kept the geniuses who actually made the art totally dependent on weekly allowances. To the public, stars like Chaplin were untouchable gods. But behind closed doors, they were just golden cash cows being milked dry by men in expensive suits. To fight back, Chaplin needed an elite crew. He teamed up with Mary Pickford, the world's biggest female star, Douglas Fairbanks, the ultimate Hollywood action hero, and D.W. Griffith, the director who practically invented modern filmmaking. Together, these four rebels were responsible for over 80% of all ticket sales on the planet. They were a powerhouse of viral influence before social media even existed. The breaking point came when the studio cartel secretly met to cap actor salaries and kill creative freedom for good. But the bosses underestimated their own talent. The second the news broke, a rival studio chief publicly laughed it off, saying, "The inmates have taken over the asylum." It was a brutal insult, but honestly, he had a point. Chaplin and his crew were master storytellers and brilliant performers, but they knew absolutely nothing about high finance, corporate laws, or global distribution logistics. They had built a beautiful car, but they didn't know how to drive it. They completely underestimated the crushing cost of shipping physical film reels worldwide and managing real estate. Even worse, their massive, legendary egos instantly became a corporate nightmare. Instead of making fast business choices, boardroom meetings turned into multi-hour screaming matches over artistic vanity. They were trying to fight a financial war with raw emotion, and the empire was already cooking up a plan to crush them. In January 1919, the four rebels met in absolute secrecy. The studio trap was closing and they had to make a choice: remain highly paid puppets or risk everything for freedom. They chose war. On February 5, 1919, they officially launched United Artists. It was a radical, incredibly arrogant gamble. For the first time ever, actors would fund, produce, and distribute their own movies globally. They pushed their entire fortunes, reputations, and careers into the center of the table on a single roll of the dice, believing their raw star power could smash a multi-billion-dollar monopoly. The studio cartel wasn't about to let a few actors ruin their billion-dollar playground. They struck back with a brutal counteroffensive. First, they pressured major banks to completely deny loans to United Artists to starve them of cash. Next, they threatened theater owners, warning that showing a UA film meant being permanently cut off from all other Hollywood movies. Finally, they weaponized the press, planting hit pieces to paint Chaplin's crew as greedy, failing amateurs. Worse, the propaganda worked because United Artists was cracking from the inside. The boardroom became a psychological pressure cooker. They realized that while the studio cartel owned the physical buildings, those theaters would go bankrupt without hit movies. The rebels stopped arguing in the boardroom and did what they did best: they went back to making masterpieces. Douglas Fairbanks released The Mark of Zorro, an instant blockbuster that forced theater owners to break the cartel's blockade just to meet public demand. Then, Charlie Chaplin delivered The Gold Rush, a cinematic triumph that generated enough global revenue to single-handedly stabilize the company's finances. Over the decades, the studio the rebels built went on to shape global pop culture. In the 1960s, they backed a risky and proven British spy character and launched the James Bond franchise. In the 1970s, they funded a script by a broke, unknown actor and gave the world Rocky. They produced and distributed historic masterpieces like West Side Story, The Pink Panther, and Amadeus. Eventually, the original founders grew old and sold their stakes. United Artists entered a long cycle of corporate acquisitions, acting as a prize pass between billionaires. In a poetic twist in 2006, superstar Tom Cruise took control of the studio, attempting to revive Chaplin's original vision of an entertainment company run entirely by the talent. Today, United Artists has been swept up into the modern streaming wars. Following an $8.5 billion mega merger, UA and its parent company MGM are now fully owned by Amazon. It is the ultimate corporate irony. The revolutionary startup built by Charlie Chaplin to escape the corporate monopolies of 1919 is now a content asset for the largest digital monopoly on Earth. The cage didn't disappear, it just changed owners.